Hello everyone, it's Miss Darling in the studio. Welcome back, and welcome for the first time if you're here for the first time. My daughter Swoop gave me the nickname Miss Darling. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about, decorating, bringing kind of the sizzle to the clusters that we make. And then I'm going to show you a recent journal that I made that's very luxurious and very feminine, and I think you'll enjoy seeing the contents of that journal. So let's go. All right, first I'll show you some clusters that I made, I think off camera. Anyway, I cut them into two so that they're not too short and they're not too long. And then I decorated them more fully with extra fabric and these beautiful little flowers. And the important thing is to pick the right colors to go together so it's appealing to the eye. But also keep in mind colors that you think you might use in an upcoming journal. It's not going to do you much good to have a bunch of clusters sitting around in your stash that are colors that don't go with anything you're planned to make. And so, bear that in mind as you're choosing. But of course, you are limited to the scraps that you have on hand. This is a combination of paper and fabric working together to make two beautiful clusters. Here's another two, and in this case I ran fabric down the middle, added a little bit of lace on this side, and then punctuated that, which also holds the fabric in place, with these little brads that I had to slit a small opening through the whole thing, and in order to push it through without bending and breaking these, little fasteners. I don't remember what they're called, but anyway, you get the idea. You can buy these in a gold color like I have. You can get a silver, kind of a chrome ones. You might even be able to find them in different colors, and so, use those to create a focal point on your clusters. Now here's another set that I cut in half, and I ran fabric down the middle, and then I added some trim along one side of the fabric, and then I found some colorful butterflies in my stash that I glued on top to finish it off and make it look really special. So those are some ways that you can decorate your clusters. You could use these for a side tuck or just plain decoration, and you can cut them or tear them into smaller parts for smaller clusters to use to decorate your journals. So I went ahead and thought, okay, let's come up with some ideas of how to bring these to a finish line. And so what I did is I took some ribbon. I had some red, gold, and green ribbon that I made into a braid, and simply by anchoring one end and then just braiding as you would do your hair, and I got this long piece of braiding here. But then when I go to put it down on the cluster, the green just pops out too much because there's no green in the actual cluster. So to fix that, I'm going to add some green. And so I'm going to add a little piece up here, and we'll add a piece down here. It's easy to add more, and I'm just going to space them out over the whole length. and I'll drop one in about down there, and one here, and then one up there. Okay, and so I'm just going to, actually I'm going to take some glue paste and from a stick, and I'm just going to add a little bit of that. Don't need to cover the whole thing. I'm just going to add enough to hold that in place, so when I go to sew it, it remains in place long enough for me to sew it securely onto the large cluster. Okay, so now look at what a difference that makes. So now if I were to run my braid down the middle, it just perfectly settles in and looks pretty good, I think. So that's what we'll do. I have enough braid here to do both of them, oops, the same way. So we'll, now in this one I have a couple of thin strips, which I did intentionally to change it up a bit. Don't want to be too predictable. And then I'm going to, space, and maybe I need one up in here, and maybe move that one up, and then we'll drop this one in. I think we'll go down more toward the bottom with that one. Okay, so we're just, spacing them up randomly, and your piece will tell you where it feels appropriate to add something else. And so don't worry too much about where to put things. Look at what you're working with and make your decisions accordingly. And I like changing it up a bit by splitting this one into two pieces instead of one. It makes it a little less predictable. I like to be unpredictable and surprise myself and surprise other people too. Okay, so now that's all I'm going to do to these until I sew them, and then I will attach the ribbon onto those. So that gives you an idea of how to finish off a couple of clusters that you haven't brought all the way to the end. And this was nice. This is in the red, yellow, and green palette, and would make a very cool clusters for, say, a Christmas journal or whatever. Now in this one, this is the same thing. It doesn't have green, and we're not going to go with green. But what we are going to do is, I thought I'd take some pieces of lace that I had and scrunch them up, and then tie them off with a bit of embroidery floss. And I chose red, and then I'm going to attach these here and there down the length of the cluster. And in this one, I kind of cut the edges at an angle, and so I'm just sort of fanning them out where that angle shows through. And I'm going to do that one there. And so let's make our third one, and I think this was the piece I used. So I have a piece of lace, just kind of plain. Doesn't have to be real fancy. You're not going to see much of the lace itself anyway. And so I'm just going to kind of accordion fold that all together into a tight little grouping of the lace. And I've got a piece of the embroidery floss right here ready to go. And so I'm just going to take the end, put it near the end, leaving enough hangover to make my tie with. And then I'm going to kind of go around this about 5 or 6 times, enough so that I get a wide enough band here that it can be seen easily. No point in having a colored band there and then have it just be once around and not even be able to see it. Plus, the more you go around, the sturdier it becomes. And so then it's just a matter of tying it off just like you would anything. And I usually will pull it through at least 3 times. I'm all thumbs on camera. Okay, so I tied it 3 times, and now I'm just going to snip off the longest piece, and here we have. Now, I didn't quite get my band perfectly in the center. It doesn't matter. So it's just a matter of fanning them out before you glue them down so they kind of stay that way. And in this case, I'm going to use some fabric glue instead of the glue stick. And I'm going to put a little glue out here. And some more over here. I'm going to leave the little red tails just to dangle. And then it's just a matter of pressing it down wherever you've chosen to place it. And we'll do the same over here. And lastly, and so I don't have my glasses on, so everything looks fuzzy to me, but hopefully that's nice and focused for you. So that's what I did with this one, and now I'm going to change it up. I've got this other one that's very similar in terms of the cluster itself, but what we're going to do is change up how we decorate on top. So I have 3 pieces of that same lace that I've just cut into simple triangles. Don't worry about making them perfect or anything, and I'm just going to lay them down in place. And then I have 3 ribbons. I'm going to put my largest one in the middle, and we'll go with the white one up there and a gold one down here. Now you could make them all one color. You don't have to make them all different colors like I've done. I'm doing that primarily just, you know, to show you the idea. And so I'm, you know, jazzing it up just a little bit by adding the lace. You don't have to do this step. You can glue the, well, you can glue whatever you decide to put on as decoration right straight down onto your cluster. And we'll add a little bit here. Now I'm gluing down one side of the folded part of the bow, gluing that down along with the center of the bow, but I'm not gluing down the ends. I'll just let them go where they want to go, and that's fine with me. I think I'll use a glue stick this time for the lace itself. It's a little hard getting the wet glue on this lace because it's so airy, but we'll go back to the fabric glue for the bow itself. And you can angle them, or you can put them on, you know, straight. I like to change it up, and if I'm angling, usually if it's an angle this way here, I'll go the opposite way on the next one, and so on and so forth. But, you know, you can do as you like. And put a little glue there. And down. The lace just dresses it up a bit, and maybe you can use lace and lace overlay to tone down something that's maybe too bright or too harsh or too anything. You know, tone it down with a piece of lace, and it dresses it up at the same time. So that's what we have with this one. Okay. So I hope this gives you some simple, really inexpensive ways to dress up your clusters and make them really special and unique. And, you know, so just have fun. I've had many clusters that I've sewn buttons on. The nice thing about what I've done here in this video is that everything that I've used to decorate with maybe the exception of these little flowers, everything else is very flat. And the reason you like to do something that's as flat as possible is that these always bulk up your journal to begin with. But then if you have something that's really fat and sticks up on top of these, then, you know, it can really make the journal not only cumbersome, but hard to turn the pages, because they can wind up being so heavy with something that it's just hard to flip a page. Okay, so I promised I was going to show you another one of my journals. This is a more traditional type from the Wabi Sabi that I've been decorating with recently. And so this one has a nice little tassel here with a store-bought little dangle there and a homemade larger dangle here. And then I just added bunch of pieces, some of the fabric that I used on the cover, along with ribbon and lace and some eyelash trim here, and just something to jazz it up and make it feel even more special. This you can remove. It's got a little clamp on the end and can be easily removed. The cover is fabric on the background with a paper focal point and lace to bind and gird the spine. The back is the same fabric, and see what a beautiful lace piece I found in my stash that just went uniquely here. Now, most of the time when you sew a signature in, this has one signature, and a lot of mine have two signatures, but then the thread shows on the spine. Well, I did not sew the signature into this cover in the traditional method, so I do not have any thread down here that I'm trying to hide. I did it strictly for design purposes. So let's open it up. Here's some lace that I included along the way so it has a self-closure. The inside back is covered with a piece of scrapbook paper. I have one of my seals down here, and then a short cluster there, and to hide the beginning of the faux spine that is back in there, I ran some lace down the side there. So here's my opening page. It's a very vintage of advertisements and little bits and pieces. And this journal is full of lined paper on the inside, the back of the decorative page. And this lined paper I made several months ago. I like having lined paper in journal because I have a tendency to go off on an angle, and I don't like that. But with the lined paper, I stay nice and neat. And so I made the lined paper that comes in many different colors, which you're going to see through as we go through this journal. And this is the files to the lined paper, if you're interested, are available in my Etsy shop, and it's called Miss Darling Arts. And so you can go there and acquire those files, and then you can be able to print off as many lined pages as you want in a large variety of colors. So that's that. Here's a circular cluster that's over there, and as I always say when I'm showing a journal, I always like to decorate my pages that face one another. So when you open it, this is what you see, and it's important to me to have the left side color coordinated with the right side so that you're always looking at a pleasing spread. So you can see now we have green lined paper, and again trying to coordinate left with right using a lot of clusters. There's a cluster right here and one over here. That's why they're so fun to have available to finish off your decorating. Now here's a little envelope thing I made a long time ago, and it's done with 3 envelopes that are attached together, and then you can insert whatever you want in the envelopes. I've got a bunch of tags in here that are all color coordinated with the page that you're looking at, and a little bit of lace treatment there. Here we have a bottom pocket with some lace on top, and then I've thrown in a bunch of tags of different sizes and shapes. Here's one that the background was done with a jelly plate, and then using modeling paste and a stencil, I put on the floral design, and it feels like it's embossed. It's not, but it feels and looks that way. And so here are a bunch of tags, and of course you can fill this up with, you know, whatever you want to fill it with. Some lighter kind of rose lined paper, some hot pink, and a bottom pocket. And we've got what, you know, it's an art card, it could be a postcard, another one of those embossed tags, and just changing it up, making sure that my colors go with the particular spread that I'm showing. This is a cluster here. Flip it over, and now we've got a flip page here, which this comes out, and the back is decorated, and decorated so that it looks right side up when you flip it out. And then there's a blank page for journaling underneath. A triangle pocket with more tags and writing paper. Some purple lined paper. You see how colorful they are. And to bring more of this purple tone over here, I just added a piece of lace, just randomly glued down. You see how simple it can be to, you know, coordinate both pages together. More clusters. Now we're at the middle of the journal, and you can see the thread that I used to sew this in place. Got a sticker here. It's kind of popping up a little. And here's another tag, and another one of those 3 envelope combinations that you can pull out and stick all kinds of goodies in. I've got a vintage, in fact 2 vintage postcards here I've had for years and years. This by artist Howard Barron, who used to be the most, perhaps the most prominent artist in the decorating market. So now we're on the back side of the signature, and so you'll see the tags and various pockets and stuff will be on this side mainly, instead of this side where you have the highly decorated paper. And then we've got our lined paper on the right side now. And so I'll just flip through this quickly. Here's another flip out card, and you see you can decorate it any way you want. It can be extravagant or very simple like this. And so, you know, just change up what you're doing so that it's unique and not expected, and be unpredictable as an artist is what I'm trying to say. And we have another bottom pocket with some tags, and another one, and more of these tags. Now these tags, these 2 right here and a few more here, were cut out of a masterboard that I made. And so, you know, that's a quick and easy way to get some tags to go in. Use your masterboards, and for more than, you know, one purpose. You can just make copies of the board itself, and then use your copies for all kinds of goodies that you can make. Here we have another pocket. I used a lot more fabric and lace in this one than I had before, which is why it has pushed itself up into a more luxury type of journal. Definitely not junk. I make art journals. I don't make junk journals, actually. I feel mine are all works of art, and I promote them as such. And you will build in a perceived value in part by how you talk about your own work and how you market it. And so bear that in mind, which can have a big effect on how you price it and what people are willing to pay to have something that you've created. If you pitch it as junk, that's how they're going to perceive it, and then they're going to want to give you a junk price for it. But if you pitch it as art, as your art, then you create a whole different perceived value. Okay, so that was it for this video. Thanks for being here. I hope you learned something or were inspired by something to help you in your own creativity. Do leave me a comment and give my little video here your love and share it with others, and I'd appreciate that. But thanks for staying with me this long. I do appreciate people who watch more than a minute or two. So thank you for that. And with that said, this is Miss Darling calling this a wrap. Bye-bye.